Hello and welcome to the Shelly Show. I'm Shilendra and you're watching this simulcast live on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook and YouTube. I hope you and your family are safe and getting through this COVID pandemic times. For you to view this episode and the other sessions that are run on emerging technologies live, I would request you to follow me so that you can be alerted when a live session is on. This gives you an opportunity to ask direct questions to our guests. So please press the follow button if you're watching this on LinkedIn. Please press the follow button if you're watching this on Twitter. Please press the subscribe button and the bell icon if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're watching this on Facebook, please like and share it not only to your friends, but also into other groups which are artificial intelligence focused. So now, if you've joined us, then press the thumbs up and show the love and show us that you're there. And also tell us which part of the world are you joining us from, which city, which country are you joining us from, so that we know that what is our sphere of viewership, where all people are watching this episode in from. So tell us which country, which city, share information about yourself. We would like to interact with you. Okay. The Human Resource Department is a unique team that plays a significant role throughout an employee's journey. The challenge at larger organizations is that a personalized, high-touch approach can take time and effort, and sometimes employees and candidates can feel underappreciated. Despite the humanness of human resources, technology is being quickly adopted to empower teams and engage with workforce. So today, we will talk about the future of work, how the work is going to evolve when conversational AI comes into place. Let's talk about that. Natural language processing technology is the core component in any human-to-computer interaction and is being used from the first resume screening to the exit interview. And with COVID-19, things have significantly changed. Okay, so guys, welcome to the 12th episode of Artificial Intelligence Startup Insight series. In this series, we discuss both artificial intelligence and how startups are leading in this space. We're joined by Marc Teerlink, who is SAP's Global Vice President for Artificial Intelligence and Intelligent Enterprise Solutions. Marc is active in the startup community, so he gets a startup angle and has been a mentor, an investor, and a board member as well. So without any further ado, let me bring in Marc. Drum rolls for Marc. Hi Marc, how are you?
Hey, good morning, Shelley. How are you?
Good morning. It's early morning for you, and I know you had a trip today morning.
At the moment, that's really, really bad, man. That's really, really bad. How are you doing over there?
Very good. It's good time, and we're heading towards Christmas. Everything is opening up now. Hopefully, everything gets well, and so things will be all good.
Yeah. It's. I mean, November, or as I would say, Movember is over, and we're now really heading to the end of the year and the beginning of some more serious activities. Because Q1 Q1 of 2021 is full of promises, right? And when you look to conversational AI, actually, this year has really caught on. And you know, this is the famous joke we have been talking about in some of the shows, like how much of the C-suite has been changed and driven digital transformation, where the C of COVID was always the 80% factor, right? Compared to the CDO, the CEO, etc. And once you can't communicate with customers, and you compare this with 3-4 years ago when you wanted a chatbot, it was an incredible amount of effort. You needed to train it, you need to build it, you need to embed it. And now there are, like when you're an SAP customer, you use SAP conversational AI, there's all kinds of platforms in the market. And suddenly AI has matured, because with everybody using those platforms, the demand on those platforms and the quality that they deliver has been shaking out the market, right? So why did AI, conversational AI, suddenly became a priority for companies in 2021? Well, first is we needed to manage dialogues with more turn and twist. And we had, because everybody was sitting at home during the day, suddenly, companies that normally didn't get a peak during the 9 to 5 got like overwhelmed, like, oh. And of course, the questions were about bandwidth and camera use and all the kind of stuff. And man, frequent asked questions about my product. How do I install this? How do I get the monitor there? And loads of companies were like, but then you had the online companies and all those customers like, I ordered this, but I actually want this in this box, etc. So one was managing dialogue entries. The second was context management, right? This is really where the normal rule-based bots that companies used totally fail, right? You know, this moment that you can choose between, am I going to go in line for 20 minutes with Verizon before it's my turn? Or am I going to spend 5 minutes with a chat box, right? And in both situations, you end up in screaming or typing agent, agent, agent to get a human being because you know this is not there. So, and it's so freaking frustrating. Like, if you have a complaint about your order, you should click this. I'm like, I tried this, it does not work. So that's context management, right? So giving the conversation and actually know when the conversation has to move to a human being with priority or not was really important. Then came something that, you know, marketeers have been talking about for months and months and for years and years, like sentiment analysis. Right, this was applied on social media. This was applied on, but more passively, like in hindsight analysis. Why do people still use Vegemite, and why do they like it? The lovers and the haters, you know. And you went to all these emotions just by the choice of words that people were having. Yeah, that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough because now suddenly we had chatbots, and I directly needed to see: is your tone agitated? Is your tone frustrated? Are you open or close in your conversation? So by the time the chatbot hands over to a human being, there is a scenario or a script handed over to that human being, say, go in like this, or be careful there. Then you got the second part, and that's the part where, if it's the chatbot alone, really realizing, like, this isn't about the problem, this is about the state of mind. Up till a year ago, we had these rule-based kind of chatbots, basically, and not AI-powered. And they were just like, the solution is this, the solution is this. And they didn't realize that they would drive you and me mad, right? So that's the other part. What we've seen is multilingual support has been driving really industry adoption. So can I make a chatbot once with a logic, and then put some language or maybe even cultural, so I can use it in multiple languages, multiple poses. Right, this started, of course, in the US, where you need to rapidly go from English to Spanish to serve a large group, which was never, because Spanish is not an official language in the US, right? It was never the priority until last year when we realized, like, you're missing out a contingent. Well, in countries like Canada, which is official bilingual, right, it was always a priority from day one. And we saw in Europe, for instance, Recast, which has been acquired by SAP, in Canada, we saw actually, interesting enough, those countries that are always have to do multilingual really speeding up in how do we do that. But the most important is we moved from pure behavior analytics to machine conversations. So my bot talks with your bot. And what we've seen now is that retailers have slowly embraced the part that I actually sent my bot out for shopping expedition, right? This is the, hey Siri, hey Alexa, hey whatever, hey Google, go find me some products. Now, this is, a lot of people like, yeah, it's sci-fi, but you must not underestimate in some segments already that this is going from niche to etc. Now, of course, voice assistant and speech to voice is going to be really important. And the test is always to close up. When is the moment that your voice assistant can deal with the famous line, please write Mrs. Right now, right? That's the moment that you're there. So there are three things. Let me recap. One is the interface. Is it typing? Is it voice to speech? Second is the end result is the NLP that starts doing the parsing, but not just in words, but just emotions and sentiments and intent. And the third is the moment that you hand over to the human being and that you power that human being, the agent, directly within behavioral and a sentiment and a word analysis of what is the situation and what's the problem. but most important, what state of mind the customer's in. Now, we've seen some companies in the HR space embracing it, especially.
Before I go there, Mark, I very quickly need to talk about people who've told us where they're
Yes,
coming
yes,
from.
yes. Hello, people. Welcome.
So, guys, Francis Xavier says good morning, and he's coming from Bangalore. Hi, Francis. How are you? Then I don't know what that name is. Said good morning. Good morning in a different language. Asad Abbas from Pakistan. Hi, Asad. How are you? Thank you for joining us. This name in a different language is from Hyderabad. We've got Disha Parekh Monty from India, and we've got Prapul Palli, our regular, joining us from India, I suppose, and we need to ask him where are you joining from. So, guys, if you've got a question, please make sure that you ask that question in the comment section, and I'll take that question to Mark and our guest who's going to join us. So, Mark, coming back to what we're talking about, with the conversational AI, how do you see, and we've talked about it in almost every next episode where we talk about the changes what a conversational AI is going through at the moment, where the bot is dumb to bot is very intelligent. Where do you see that happening in the changing workforce? More so in the environment where things are getting virtual more and more. How is that changing for people doing their work? So it's not about engaging with the customers; it's about engaging with their colleagues. It's engaging with their.
Right.
How is that changing?
So there are two things. There are, I am doing my work, and how do chatbots internally support me, right? And I am doing my work. How is the organization facilitating the interaction with me? Two things, right? The second part is the domain of HR, which sadly in most companies has become human remains and not human resources. And let me give you an example. I've seen some payment suppliers, companies that you normally use to process your salary and your payments, right? Those kind of companies also come with other support, like book your holidays ahead, get approval from your manager to book your holidays, etc. Right? So we've seen them really engaging in both chatbots and voice to speech, both as a combination, so that you literally can say on your telephone, "Hey Google, book me a day off on April 24," right? And automatically the 5-6 processes are there. So the chatbox becomes powerful because there's robotic process automation behind it that says, open this app, find this day, put it in, click to approve, put it back. So it's actually, like we always say, AI is a combination of different technologies. Successful chatbots are really good when behind there in the back office is an RPA that does all these. Now we have to go back to that real good AI takes the repetitive, mind-numbing task away from you as a professional, as a knowledge worker. So a lot of HR processes within the companies are actually not the most efficient. Take this, I want to book a holiday, go to the portal, look in the portal, go to your holidays, then click on tab number 7, then find the day, then say if it's a half a day or a full day, then press approve, right? Then check your email and approve it again, all that kind of stuff. So when we see the internal support, can I help productivity in the interactions? Which is also questions like, when will my bonus be paid out? Or I'm relocating, what are the 5 steps? Things that normally were in a passive domain on an internal intranet site that you had to search your brain off, right? So that's what we really see developing. And we see that HR software, not just SAP SuccessFactors, but we also are looking to productivity, like the workdays and the Mondays and those kind of things, right, are picking it up. Then we go to the second part, chatbots internally to do my job. So that's not the HR interaction. The best example I find, I've seen it in procurement and in merchandise management. Most merchandisers and procurers need multiple screens up. So the contract, the thing, the spreadsheet, etc. And they go into Windows and Windows, and they have binders on their desk. And literally, when you have your hand full, right, either visual recognition when you're on a worksheet, like I need more Office management, I need more of this toner. Click with my phone, make the order. I need more of these pens. Click with the phone, make the order. Or more sophisticated, right? Use just a voice-to-speech chatbot, right? Open up these kind of things, look at this. So while you're typing, you literally have your little assistant that does tasks. That's not just a chat. It's a chat that does a task.
Okay.
The biggest problem there still, Shelley, is that most chatbots don't have memory to keep the conversation. So let me give you the best example. This is the famous, and I've used this on different things. The moment you use your phone and you say, hey, Google, hey, Siri, hey, whatever, right? Text my wife, I love her. Your wife, Shelley, is going to get a text message that says, I love her. And around four nanoseconds later, Shelley, your wife is going to call you and say, who the heck is he? Right? And so it's like going to Google and you say, who is Marc Teerlink? And bang, you get the answer. And then you type in, what is his height? And it's totally lost. It has not made that conversational part. So the biggest power in that conversation for a chatbot, the litmus test is, can it keep the conversation, or is it one-off answering? And that's a little bit where the biggest challenge for 2021 is going to be.
Okay, can we ask our audience if they've had any of such funny instances where they asked the chatbot to do something and it did something different? So guys, if you've got any of such example, please put that in the comment section and I'll share it with not only Mark and the rest of the world, of course, on this call. So if you've got a unique case where you try to tell the chatbot to call your wife and say, I love her, and it said, I love her. Well, I've had one of those when I asked the chatbot, in this case Google, and when I told them these are the date of births of my daughters, and I say, what is my daughter's age? And it says, who's that? So, you get all of that all the time. So if you've got any such funny incidents, please put that out in the comment section and I will take that up. Mark, coming back to you. So how do you see startups playing in this space? So are there, and I see that lots of startups are working, because I think it's a newish area, conversational AI, but there are two things to that. One is a lot of startups are doing the rule-based work, where they're creating those chatbots which are doing stuff in rule-based area. But there are some startups who are focusing mainly on the machine learning and the intelligence space. What do you see in the market?
Well, first you see is that everybody started to go what you call from the golden nugget of the famous frequent asked questions, right? So let's empower your employee to go to the thousands of documentations and find it out. What is error code F22? How do I approach error code F22? So we actually had to train in the beginning our employees to keep the memory of the conversation. What is error code F22? Then you get the answer. How do I solve error code F22? And then you get something. What is the procedure for XYZ, what you just mentioned, right? And it actually helped. A really nice example in the UK is a UK startup that started 3-4 years ago that actually worked for mechanics in car mechanics, right? You will be surprised, but if you have if you had a Ford Escort, Ford actually changed it because it was made in Germany, in Europe. The specs of that car, the little specs changed every so many months, which is really weird. Like, how do I open this? Where is the light button for that? It's not for you and me noticeable as a driver, except for, hey, they moved this thing there. But under the hood, right, based on a change of supplier, etc., optimizing the supply chain, suddenly the component or the cable or the connection just had been moved, had been changed, etc. So the hardest is, of course, how do I, from the inside, open this lid? Now, this is when you're standing with two hands in a car, and you have no clue, right, where it is, and you have like dirty fingers. This is not the moment you go to your iPad and do this, or you go to manuals, right? So having chatbot aided by voice for frequent asked questions and looking up was really the first nugget that NLP was more powerful than rule-based. The second that we see in this market is that when you really go to conversational intelligence, it's at its best if you don't just pump it in to offload a boring task, but you actually took a step back and say, if I redesign my process digitally, can I reap benefits from changing the order of the process and at the right strategic moment put a conversational bot in? Now, those were the cases that really have done well.
Mhm.
But that took some guts in 2020 to say, oh, we're really, really busy. And instead of having some cross-channel, cost-effective solution, we're actually going to go to something that actually really becomes engaging, and that's really, really where things have been taking off this year. We noticed really that examples where people said, okay, within 3 months, we need to have a more efficient way of process. Let's take the best of our resources that are needed for customer management, that all sitting at home, and use their brain, and let's literally get some pilot, do some A/B testing, and start rolling that out. And we now see those companies evaluating like what worked, what didn't work. So what we saw is, one, they redefined the process. Two, they actually work together, not always with voice, but with robotic process automation to actually automate part of that process. And they really focused on the customer, or in this case, the employee experience.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay. So, do you see many startups here, or is that quite a few in this
Well,
space?
yeah, but they also burn fast. That's the problem. I think a lot of people underestimate that they focus on the core part of the technology. Let's take the NLP, let's take TensorFlow under it, or IBM Watson under it, or Microsoft Azure and Microsoft ML under it, and build a chatbot out of the box, right? That would have been great 3-4 years ago. But there's an established part in the market as well, right? I mean, look at SAP, right? You now need to have a reason as a SAP client, like, hold on, SAP's conversational AI is already plugged in and embedded with SAP's core processes and core flows. Why would I take a third party? It needs to be really much better, right?
Mhm.
So we see much more pre-trained components. So I have cracked the code kind of ML isn't there. So the power is now in the industry knowledge. The power is now in the training of the conversation. And that takes time. You don't pull that off out of nothing, right? It really takes time to train an AI bot. So I think that we saw a lot of them coming, but we also saw a lot of crash and burns because they didn't have the industry knowledge, or they underestimated the time needed to make it. And if they did it then, they had to figure out how were they going to make it embedded. So a good chatbot today isn't a standalone thing anymore. It needs to have pre-made integrations. Otherwise, you're not going to be successful. And that's why we see the winners and the losers separating this year.
Mhm. Okay, good stuff. Guys, if you've got a question for Marc, this is your time. Please put that question in the comment section and I'll take that question for Marc. And also, do not forget to like and share this particular episode so more and more people can watch this episode. Okay, one such startup that has been working on AI in conversational AI and the future of workspace is Powerly AI. And Powerly is an AI chatbot that uses NLP and speech recognition and generates AI scores to find out the compatibility between talent and businesses. Now, this is interesting. We're getting into interesting space. And today, our guest is Sidhartha Mohanty. Sidharth spent over a decade in sales, marketing, and investor relations in various organizations such as L&T, ICICI Bank, Concept Public Relations in India. Got failed, that's his CV saying, got failed in 2 different startups earlier in 2013 and 2015. Now, imagine someone stating that upfront that I failed in 2 startups. And he's learned that many critical startup skills in the real world by failing. Failing is important, as we all know. He believes failure to be one of the critical aspects of life, and without success, doesn't give you a good taste at all. You need to fail fast and bounce back as quickly as possible. If something is not just working, just move ahead in life. That's what he thinks. That's his philosophy. He got selected for one of the entrepreneur fellows at ISA, which is in Hamburg, Germany, which is project of, I'm not going to name it. It is Shadjamek Schmark, whatever. Deutscher. It's like over beyond me world. SDW is what it is, and spent close to a year going doing research on sustainability. This program was funded by BMZ, which is the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. His current HR tech startup is into building a sustainable technology platform that helps companies transform digitally for a better future. So without any further ado, let me get in Sidharth Mohanty. Hi Sidharth, welcome
Hi,
to
hi
AI
Shailendra.
Days. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Hi Shailendra. Hi Mark. And thank you so much for this wonderful conversation. And hopefully, we'll have interesting conversations in the next few minutes.
Okay. So first, tell us about your two failures. Let's start with the failures first. So you've got an interesting philosophy, and very few people call it out that I failed. So tell us where you failed.
Sometimes you have to accept your failures as it is, because you cannot manipulate your failures. People should see that, okay, you have failed one or two or thrice, or many times you fail. You have to tell them upfront, hey, I failed, okay, and these are the reasons. In the first startup, we didn't have a tech co-founder. In the second startup, we were not, like, in terms of we couldn't find a scalable way of building the model. So the first startup was into financial literacy, along, like, around 5 years back, 6 years back. And I mean, there was no fintech at that point of time. I mean, there were a couple of reasons that the model couldn't work. We were mostly focusing on training people, going to different corporates and telling them what is saving, what is investments, how do you save tax, and all these things. We could not think of an online model at that point of time, and nobody advised us, like, I mean, in short, we could not get a right mentoring. And the second startup also, there were similar problems, but also some problems with one of our co-founders. And yes, I could not manage it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the situation, because you have to act as the situation goes. If you couldn't do it, that's fine, you couldn't do it. We realized later on that why I didn't do it, because you only get lessons when you move towards future. You cannot get a lesson at the right point. If you learn something at the right point, then you will not do mistakes. You got to do it mistakes, because so right now I'm realizing that, oh my god, why did I fail? Why did it didn't work? So I will never ever do such mistakes in the future. So yeah.
So that's interesting, guys. If you've got any question for Sidharth Mohanty and Mark, please put that in the comment section, and I'll take that question in the audience Q&A section. As you know, that we have a dedicated audience Q&A section. Okay, Sidharth, tell us about your journey in Powerly AI. How did it all start, and what do you do in the organization? And also, if you've got any use cases to share about from Powerly AI.
Yeah, so I mean, this particular idea was basically a pivoted idea from an existing. So we had a startup. I mean, that was into recruitment, and we did it for almost 3 years here in India. But we pivoted this idea to a conversational interface and doing something into, purely into AI platform. I mean, recently, in last like 8 to 9 months, it's since last 8 months we have been working on this idea. And so what Powerly AI does is, it's basically a chatbot which uses natural language processing and generates some sort of AI scores, which actually matches the compatibility between employee and employer. So I will give you two examples that what we are actually trying to do at this point of time. So there are two things. There are two use cases. So the first is how to use this particular platform for career aspirants, like the guys who are just passing out from universities and colleges. and entering into the workforce, those people are clueless. Those people are, they don't know what career they should do. They should move ahead to do it, and they are very confused. If you look at people in India and across the world, even after COVID, people have become more confused whether they would like to do a marketing job or a finance job or a sales job. They have started doubting themselves, and the problem is they are not able to express their thoughts. They are not able to express what is there in the mind. They are not able to convince the guy where they are going to get a job, I mean the employer. So the problem is at the communication side, the way they want to express themselves. They have technical skills, they know a lot of things, but they are not able to put it in an articulated format, like, the way they should have to think and speak and convince the other guy, yes, I am capable of doing something. That is one. And the second use case is when you see early employees, like a guy who's just joined, like have spent around 6 months to 1.5 years in a company. Okay, he is very early, he or she, and he is trying to swim around. He's trying to experiencing the company. At this point of time, it is very important to find out the role clarity, because you joined a company based on your strengths and skills. Okay, but somehow you feel after 6 months, oh my god, I am not I am not fitting into this particular role. After 1 year, some people realize, oh my god, whatever I'm doing, I am not, it is not interesting. So my question is, why didn't you realize when before entering into the organization? So you should have saved 1 year or 1.5 years in the company. You should have joined somewhere else. So the biggest problem these days is the number one, which I told you about, the decision making in their own careers, into their own jobs. And second is, after entering into the company, you should be in a situation to you should ensure yourself that, okay, you are at the right place. There is no doubt. There is no doubt at all. So what happens is, when I look at the product or the chatbot, how it is solving the first use case that I explained to you is building a platform where talent can come and they can speak. Like, for example, I asked you 5 or 6 questions, that, okay, like, how do you do in marketing, or do you know what is social media, or do you know what is search engine optimization, whatever it is, for example. So you say something, right, and you try to articulate the answer in a certain fashion that it looks nice for you when you are hearing my voice, that, okay, this guy knows the what the what is the topic or content. So we ask these questions to the guys, and the chatbot runs, and then there is only 3 minutes. You can only answer for 3 minutes for each question, and we ask around 7 to 8 questions based on skills, knowledge, and behavior. So we have divided this into three sections. So we ask 2 or 3 questions for skills, like, what will you do if you don't get, for example, you don't get any users on your website. Like, what if I give you 10,000 rupees, or maybe 500,000 dollars? How will you attract users into your website? That's that's a question. That's the answer you need to articulate in a way that it makes sense, right? So there are some skill based questions, there are some typical knowledge based questions, that tell me something about social media marketing, like concepts, right? Concepts. And there are some behavioral questions. For example, if you see your employee stealing something, or stealing some money from the drawer, from the account section, how will you react? If you see the employee doing it, if you see your colleague doing it, how will you reply, or how will you react in this situation? So there are so many workplace related questions which are emotional or behavioral based. So we ask this question, and on the other side, we have a data bank of industry validated keywords. Like, say you say something, we do speech to text, and those text is matching with the industry validated data bank in the database. So we have gathered a lot of keywords which are very necessary when you speak, because when you are speaking, yeah, I assume, and I assume that you should be using those important keywords to make a meaningful conversation or meaningful sentence. And I mean, I asked you something and you started talking about something else, so it doesn't make sense. So you have to be very focused in those 3 minutes, and you have to speak to the point. What is there in the top of your mind? Because what is there in the top of your mind, you should be able to speak in those 3 minutes, or else it doesn't make sense. It's like a kind of a pitching, or maybe kind of a articulation of your speech, right? So then that makes a talented employee, that makes a talented person who thinks fast and critically and should be able to articulate in a short span of time. Then you say, okay, he's the right guy. Okay. And so what happens is we match this data, the text data, with this database that I told you. So this these keywords we have gathered, collected from LinkedIn and from various job sites, from different channels from internet. And we have internal experts in HR and in psychology who actually validate those keywords, and the meaning behind those keywords. And then we try to match and find a score, like say
Yep.
10% or 20% or 30%. So we find out, okay, this guy has spoken sense and the score is 30%, or maybe the score is 80%. He must have spoken most of the keywords. So at this point of time, what the chatbot, see, we are at an early stage. Okay, I mean, we have not done something really great, but also because as Mark, I mean, all of you know that it takes time to build an intent based chatbot. It's not rule based, that okay, I'm asking you and the question is, the answer is fixed. It's not like that. The chatbot should be able to reply in a most humanly form, as if Shailendra and Siddharth are talking, and I am understanding and I'm replying, and right, like, a human interaction. But practically, believe me, it is not possible so early. It takes time. So what we are trying to do right now is we are trying to do only a small problem.
Yep.
Let's do it in a better way, and then let's move ahead to solve the next problem. Because at this space we don't have voice data available, there is no historical voice data, because right now we are collecting a lot of audio data from talents, from people. So it can only do only a small problem, solution of a small problem, that is content. Let's match people on the basis of what they have spoken. Let's find out whether it makes sense or not, based on what they are speaking, not how they are speaking. How they are speaking is the second stage. So right now we are solving what they are speaking, whether it is making sense or not. In the second stage, we will go about how they have spoken, and then the intent comes, or the emotional behind how you have actually articulated, what kind of phrases you have used. Like, I'll give you one example. Suppose a person, so for example, me, I am speaking, oh, I love challenges. If you give me more work, I can do a lot of things. I really love challenges. Challenge, like, challenges is something I'm really excited and passionate about, and blah 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 blah. Okay, I'm saying in a more positive sense, I love challenges. I love challenges. But for example, the second scenario would be, oh my god, no, I really don't like challenges. I am really an individualistic person, and challenges scare me. Please don't give me challenges, for example, I'm saying. I mean, so here, if you see challenges as a word, if your machine is taking challenges as a word, it will say, okay, okay, that's okay. Your score is 100%, for example, because keywords are matching. But that's not the way. The machine should be able to find the intent, what he has spoken. So that is a long form of the machine should be able to learn from the long form of sentences, should be able to articulate what the guy has spoken. And to solve such kind of problems, it will take us some time to gather a lot of data, and then apply the tagging of your skills, and the tagging kind of annotations, voice annotations, and so many things that is still to be done. So it will take us some time for that. So as of now, we have collected around 1,500 audio files, not so big, small in numbers, and we have done some kind of patterns. Like we have seen some kind of patterns in the audio, and what we saw that the accent of people vary, because we got data from variety of accents. Some are Chinese, some are German people, and some are Indian people speaking in Hindi and English mix. Now there is a burden. I mean, there is a hammering on my brain, thinking that how to filter out or how to structure this unstructured data and go step by step, you know, in filtering this data and make it more structured. So what I feel that it's a time consuming process in gathering data, analyzing data, because we do not have a historical data. And immediately we cannot say that our accuracy level is really nice. If I say Sailendra is very emotional, if I say Mark is, oh my God, is very tensed. He always talks like, you know, he's always tensed and excited, but he's not. But he's not. I mean, we have to have some amount of data that shows, that proves that, okay, over a period of 2 years or 1 year, his his speaking styles or his voice has gone into such levels, his emotions are varying. And to find out emotions, we should have enough voice data of Shailendra. If you give me just a 10 or 50 or 10 or 20 audio files, it will not work. I should have your audio data over a period of 1 or 2 years. So that would be able to, machine should be able to analyze those things, you know. So we are at such a situation where we don't have much audio data. So we are doing it slowly.
Okay. Mark, do you have any questions before I
Yeah.
get to the next
So,
one?
so I'm going to give you a short example that I worked on a few years ago, and then bring this to you. So in my former job, we wanted to be deploying rapidly with IBM Watson a platform, right, that developers would embrace, but not just tech developers, but people with a mission, a purpose, a cause. One of them was Texas 211. Texas 211 is actually a helpline or service line for those in the state of Texas for health and human services, right? It's helping citizens to connect. Now, to call a spade, it's mostly those that are in challenging economic conditions that mostly need that help. You will be surprised that homeless people mostly don't have much, but they do have a smartphone. And a chatbot, right? No voice to speech, just a chatbot, right? Already was replacing an interactive chat because there is a capacity issue with humans, especially when it's about food stamps and checks, right? Those moments in time, there's always a peak. We realized when we went to a chatbot, right, that we needed to put around 10% of the team aside, 10% of the team. These are mostly what you call the second line and third line, the most experienced people that could handle problems, not to be there anymore for individuals, but continuously go to answers that the chatbot would have given, but didn't meet enough confidence at that moment to actually give. Like, I think I know that's the answer, but I'm not allowed to give the answer because I'm not confident enough. So I will say, I'm sorry, I don't know this. I'm going to give it to a human being, right? And the continuous training of every time there's something that needs to be approved by the best experts. And it wasn't that the best experts were only doing that, but you continuously took each day one of the best experts and say, you're going to train the system while people use it. You're literally going to approve, this was a great answer, check, or this wasn't a good answer, down, right? To continuously, basically. So I'm going to go back to you. One of the most important things that I believe is continuously train with your best people, your chatbot to get better, because it also helps you. It's like how you coach new hires. So how have you implemented that in your situation, Paul?
So
how do you continuously train?
Yeah. So if I understand your question, like your what are you asking is, look, how does this chatbot actually train new people who are entering into the workforce, right?
No, how do you train the chatbot continuously to be better?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, see, at this point of time, what are we doing is very basic job. We are collecting a lot of audio files right now, and we are listening to them. I mean, one by one. I mean, it's little bit of manual activity that we are doing it, because we do not have more people in the technical team. Like, we have just two people, and what we're trying to do is we are actually listening each of the audio files and try to see how what they have spoken and what kind of phrases or words they have spoken, and then we are actually giving it this to the technical team to annotate, and then tag it with the skills. And then it's just in the collection phase right now. What we're trying to do is we are actually doing the collection of data and trying to tagging those phrases and sentences, tagging with the right skills, and trying to find out what kind of words or phrases they have used. So once we have enough data, maybe 100,000 data, and then we start actually feeding into the system and start training the system.
Mhm.
So, so isn't there a scalability issue that you're going to hit very soon? Because if you're doing manually, there
No, no,
must be
no.
something that you need to do, automatically. Mark,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there will be scalability issues there?
No, no. Right now, I mean, right now, this is something like, because we have less data. I mean, we cannot take up a model or a platform where we can actually start scaling it. Because what I intend to do is, let me gather a lot of data which makes sense for me, and then we can take up a channel or a platform, and starts doing the tagging, like, the annotations and all these things. So at this point of time, intentionally I'm doing it manually just to get my experience, the human experience, because I cannot rely on machines or someone is doing task for me. Rather, let me analyze the audio files from the scratch, from the beginning. I don't want to give this to a different website or a platform to do the analysis. But right now, what I'm doing, we are a group of 2-3 people who are actually manually seeing and watching it, like what is it happening. And by doing this, probably the background or the background would be solid. And then once you have enough data, and then you start taking some solutions or some support from the platforms where we can actually scale it. And there are a lot of platforms for this, I believe.
Mark?
So help me to understand, right? You're doing an amazing job in building this. What makes you unique? Because there's somebody watching at this and like, yeah, give me a few months and we can do this too and just capture this market. What makes you differentiating, not just in the red race moving forward, but what is it that you already have captured now that gives you unique differentiation to any other entrant in the market?
So what we believe is that there is one fundamental concepts that I believe in. See, I know there are a lot of people working on these conversational AI platforms, and they're solving problems for different things. But if you look at the talent space, the HR space, that the kind of problem that we're solving is we are trying to understand a human being, right? So why don't we understand the human being from the scratch? What I mean to say is, when they start of building their career, what we are trying to get to, when we collect audio files, we believe that if a person is able to communicate or able to speak or articulate his views, and he is saying this from the top of his mind, then he is able to build a relationship. And if he is able to build a relationship, he is able to build a career or a life or a job or a business, whatever. So on this fundamental concept, on this fundamental sentence, so I believe that the kind of work that I intend to do is finding out emotions and the behavior from the voice is something very critical. And suppose, for example, when I joined a company, I have given my voice to Powerly AI. Okay, Powerly AI has got the data, voice data of an individual, and after 6 months or after 2 months, again I get the Powerly AI gets my data. So
Mhm.
over a period of 6 months or 1 year, I give my audio data, or maybe my career profile in terms of my audio in terms of the audio data to Powerly AI, and Powerly AI analyzes the audio data over a period of 1 year. So when you start the job, you say something, okay. When you enter the workforce and spend 6 months, after 6 months you get something, your situation changes. After 6 months your situation changes and you are in a different mood. You have already built up your team, you have done a lot of things. So your career profile has changed. Your voice modulation or your voice style, the speaking style, has changed. So that's a wonderful pattern of an individual to look at, because I think here we distinguish ourselves from other people, that we are completely banging on voice, because voice is something which is very, very emotional to individuals, and it says what is there at the top of your mind, right? I mean, this is something which comes from internally, and you say what is there in the mind, and that is very, very critical. That is very, very critical. And when you have someone's audio or voice over a period of 1 year or 1.5 years, then you actually know a person. I
Mhm.
mean, and if this data is very, very useful for companies or employers to exactly look at the person from a different angle, and if you feel that over, yeah,
So help me understand, right? I understand the logic, right? And our viewers are always wondering, like, okay, there's a
yeah,
technology part, there's a business part, but now the question comes: I understand what you do, but what's your revenue model? How do you make money with this? There's a shitload of work for you guys to make this happen. So how do you make money on this? Like, I'm a company. I say, oh, I really sit down. Give me the
so
stuff.
so what happens is, right now, so how we intend to make money out of this is from basically from the screening fee. So we charge, like, see, right now we are doing some pilots, and there are some initial customers, and we intend to charge per employee per screening. Like, say we are doing, say, a screening of 100 people, say for example 100. So we are getting the data of 100 people, and we are charging per employee per screening. And that's something, say, you can say around 2 to 3, around $3 per employee,
So
2 to 3.
we have a fixed amount, transactional, per employee, per screen. That's your model. Do I
Yeah,
need
exactly.
do I need to take a subscription? So I say, like, hey, I just want to do it for one employee, and thank you so much. Or I'll take a
Yeah.
subscription for minimum so much amount a year. Or how does the model work? Because you don't want to continuously give somebody the free trial, like, yeah, use it every time you
Yeah,
need it
yeah,
for
yeah.
screening.
So, for example, if a company says that, like, for example, in the next 6 months, I'm going to hire, say, 50 people, and and I'm going to give you a subscription fee that I keep hiring on. So I always find out what is the hiring target for companies, or the screening target for companies, and then they can pay a fixed amount.
Okay.
They can pay a fixed amount, and they can say that, okay, over a period of 1 year they are going to get 50 people on board.
Mhm.
And then I mean, and if they have not utilized this money, then they can carry it forward to the next year.
It's like a data plan on your phone. You get 50 gigabyte a year, or you get 8 gigabyte a month. But if you haven't used it this month, you can 90% roll over to the next month. So
Yeah,
do you do a freemium premium? So do you give me a free test, like, well,
yeah, 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 yeah,
so you do
yeah,
freemium premium, you do
yeah,
subscription and pay as you use combined, and you do rollover plans.
yeah,
That's actually pretty good. That's actually pretty good. That's
yeah,
because I mean, one of the things that a lot of startups struggle with, and that's why I'm asking this question also to you, is like, how get a great product, how get a great value prop, how do I price this, and how do I make sure that it's a little bit like a fitness membership, right? Everybody's excited the first month, everybody's going to use it, and then they stop. And it's like, hold on, says the fitness club, how do I get Shelly to come back to keep working out with me, right? And so there needs to be a plan and an incentive as well to keep using this stuff, because otherwise Otherwise, everybody uses the try version when they need something, and then thank you so much, Siddharth, but it's not gonna. It's yeah. So that's good. That is really good. So how many people have now, when you look to your development, how many people are there continuously working with improving the algorithm, improving the AI training?
Yeah, look, so we have two advisors and technical advisors from Hamburg University,
Mhm.
and what we are working on. I mean, in the team, we have just three people, including me. It's a pretty small team, and there are two people who are working on uh, basically on training this data, because right now some amount of work is done manually,
Mhm.
because I need to ensure that even if it takes time, but we need to ensure that it builds a robust platform. It's not like from the day one you are dependent on some outside platform, and I am not so worried about scaling at this point of time. It's better to build a robust platform from the beginning. It's okay if we do it manually and understand what people have spoken, how to make it more better, so that I mean. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty early stage, and I think it will take another 3 months to collect a lot of data and train the model, because collecting data itself is a challenge. Because what I'm currently doing is I'm approaching a lot of universities, and a lot of vocational colleges where people are coming out, and just before entering into the job market, they will come to the platform, and then they will showcase their skills.
Right, right.
And
So
that,
yeah, continue.
yeah, yeah.
So actually, this is a really good example, right? This is what humans do and chatbots don't. We interrupt each other. We have like, no, no, I get it, but right. And this is always the culprit test of a chatbot. That if the chatbot is in the midst of a flow, then there's a human that says, yeah, but that's not how the conversation is going to be, right? And that makes us really human. And you could take that part like, is it impoliteness or is it excitement? Is it bored or is it the need to focus, right? These are really important. And it's a thin line. It's a really thin line when you do like this kind of sentiment and emotional recognition, this kind of bot. So do you work with any more, because this is normally only the field for technical people, right? What we see. But having a background in behavioral psychology, I really see the more successful chatbots actually working with also individuals in soft skills. So this is where the human conversation comes in, right? This is so how are you guys working with that already, or
So I mean, I didn't get your question. Like,
so you're training the technology? I get that. You're training the algorithm. I get it. Are you also in the process that you look for the humanity training of the thing, taking people that are not necessarily technical, but more in human social soft skills in testing
yes,
your
yes,
that's really where most companies miss out.
yes,
So tell us
yeah.
more about
So we have a person in the team who is basically a trainer, and is a soft skill trainer, who understand the scenario from the talent side. Like, she knows, like, okay, if these are the 10 sets of people, and how could they be, like, because they have trained people offline, they have trained people on site in the office, face to face. So uh, she has, so she has understood that, okay, for a particular style of sentence or speech, how the behavior is, like, I mean, that's face to face and practical. And then we replicate this particular idea on this automation, like, on the platform, that, okay, if the guy is speaking like this, he should likely be like this. If a person is speaking like this, he should be likely like this. So we have psychologists in the team who actually manually listen to each audio files and try to match what happens physically face to face, and what happens in the audio in the chatbot.
Mhm. So for which so this is really a cultural thing, right? It's
Yeah.
standing for a bunch of, like I'm in Bangalore or in Mumbai and I study for a bunch of students. The interaction from the audience is going to be very different than when I'm in Singapore or when I'm in Beijing or when I'm in Germany. So how many cultures are you focusing on at the moment? You mentioned the Indian part before, but even India is subcultures as well, right? It's so how do you deal with that? Because that's the hardest part. The hardest not
So
to.
right now it's completely focused on India. So we have more than 150 accents, and but what is very very important is to let people give us an opportunity to speak, because some people speak English, like Hindi and English. It's a mix of English and Hindi, and that's very common. What I am looking at is getting this voice data from the urban part right now, only from cities like Delhi or Bangalore and Mumbai, right, where you get kind of educated people, and you got to have some kind of data which is in English.
Mhm.
Once the English is proven, then we will slowly enter into the semi-urban, where people will speak like English, Hindi and English mix, and that's probably a difficult thing to tackle. But right now, only Delhi, Calcutta, Bangalore, and Mumbai is like
Right. Well, but that's an issue in a lot of countries, basically. God, the camera's playing over again. That's an issue in a lot of countries where we have that, right? It's not just in India. We have this in Western Europe as well, where we call it here in the Netherlands Dutch links or Dutch links, or those kind of things. And you have it in Germany as well. And people take the words in their language and they literally one on one repeat it as if it's almost Google Translate word by word, right? It's like in Danish there's the expression, right? I thought it enough, which basically means I thought so. And there are many examples that are not always politically appropriate to share on this medium, where people make interesting constructs of grammar, and then to realize what they mean with it, right? It's the best is when they take expressions and metaphors and they put them literally in the one-on-one translator. They're like, if I didn't know your original language, I had no clue what you're saying. It's, so where do you see this going in the Indian market for you? What's the coming 3 years where you're aiming for?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Where do you see this going? Where do you think the coming 3 years in India, where this is going to?
I mean, see, right now we have a big daddy in the country like Reliance, like and there are a lot of things happening in the mobile field. Like everybody has an Android phone, or people are now have started buying iPhones. You will see iPhones in every house because they are so aspirational to buy more and more. Yeah, the COVID has impacted a lot, and the economy has taken a back seat. I think has gone for 5 years back. But I think as per the way business is happening, or what people are saying is, economists are saying is that, yeah, the country will gain its momentum in the next few months, and the GDP is growing, and manufacturing is going to be stabilized. And most importantly, what is happening is we have already moved into digital. Big companies have started saving costs, so they are saving cost in every department. So HR is one among them, and I'm sure in the next 3 years the adoption will be more, and people will start accepting a voice or audio platforms as a medium. And I think in the last 3 years, if you look at last 3 years, yeah, we built chatbots, some rule-based chatbots, like, okay, I want to do shopping, or mobile recharging, and this and that, booking a cab and all this. But in the next 3 to 5 years, you will see that some kind of intent-based activities which will ideally save costs of human interactions in the HR department. Because right now, if you look at India as a country, people are very traditional. I mean, they accept things little lately. They realize things late, right? So once you have lost couple of millions, then you realize, oh my God, why didn't I deploy that? And by the time you reach that particular moment, you are actually trying to find out who are the vendors. Let's talk to this one and that one, who can provide us a solution. So you have to be, because what I see that in the next 3 years, the owners of businesses are going to be more digital. Because right now, a person who didn't have a Facebook account, he opened a Facebook account, because now everything is work from home, everything is virtual. So uh, whether you like it or not, you have to do it. You don't have any other way, or else you will die. It's simple, right? You will die if you don't do it. So now it's a survival instinct. Like, you need to survive in the next 3 to 5 years, and you got to deploy a technical solution in your company, be it in HR or manufacturing or supply chain or finance or whatever it is, sales. You got to deploy something which will reduce your cost, and that's the bottom line. I think the next 3 years is a great time for us. And yes, the chatbot and the intent-based actual chatbots take some time, but that's okay. And we build it from the scratch, from bottom up.
Okay. Can I ask a question before we get to the audience questions? And that is, what kind of challenges do you face being a AI startup? Well, every startup has challenges, we understand, but being a technology and an AI startup, what kind of
Shailendra,
challenges do you see?
Shailendra, the most important challenge that I face as a founder and running an AI startup is, you got to immerse with technology, which is very difficult. First of all, I mean, uh, though I have a computer science degree, and I really face difficulties in coding. I have a technical guy to do that, and I myself learning machine learning or NLP and all these things. I'm doing it because you need to do a deep dive into the sea, and you have to go deep and deep and deep. Because unless and until you yourself study this and analyze this and get a view on what is it, it is very difficult to actually make yourself dynamic and robust. The system doesn't become robust. So that is one. From a founder perspective, that's my personal challenge, to make myself more equipped with knowledge and a lot of things, because you only can do it by your own learning or advice and all this. Second is data. And in terms of voice, like, we do not have enough data. So we everybody says, okay, you have a solution, give me, and it has to be rightly deployed and bring miracles to my problems. But my dear friend, you don't understand, we do not have so much of data, and that to voice data. Okay. And relevant voice data, where people have spoken about human resources, maybe salary, maybe provident fund, maybe career, or maybe education. All this data, like, I don't have enough data where people have spoken about education, their aspirations, what they want in life. I don't have enough data where I have people have spoken about their salary problems or their career problems. First of all, once I get this data, the system or the machine will be better trained, and we can actually get miraculous results. So the challenge is to get as much as data as possible, as quickly as possible. And as Mark said, that training the model is, again, the second stage is more challenging, because you have to do it on your own. So, and of course, the third challenge can be the financing challenges. Of course, there are a lot of funds who are financing AI startups, but then we got to show something really important use cases and success cases, so that we are busy in building those success cases where people trust us, and people feel that, okay, this is something happening really nice, robust.
Okay. Do you have any questions for us? Let's turn it around. We've asked enough questions. Your turn.
uh, frankly saying, I just wanted to know that, like, I have heard about SAP success factors and SAP, and what do you mean by SAP.io? I saw yesterday on the website. I was just doing some googling, and I was saw that sap.io. I think it's a startup platform. Probably, if I'm wrong, I don't know. You have to help me that how SAP is helping startups like us, where we get opportunity or help from high tech team and environment, and get some support in terms of technology knowledge and implementation, kind of a sandbox of experimentation. And you need that backbone, hand holding. So how SAP is hand holding startups?
So yeah, that's a really good question. Like most larger tech companies, we have carved out our own fund and our own approach, and say there are three ways that we work with startups. One, startups want to they already have funding, they're already independent enough. They do not necessarily want SAP to take an active participation in them, because that means shareholders run the show, but they want to connect to SAP. Like for instance, SAP SuccessFactors is um, a human capital management platform, right? So I want to take the input, the output, and interact with that platform. Or I do a solution for shopping and retail, so I want to connect with the catalog of a retailer in SAP. So they mostly then come like, we need some help to figure out how to connect with your platform, right? That's option one. Mostly that means that a company that makes a good pitch, has a good story, and SAP.io is the website where you can find some things back, everybody, but you need to have a running product. You already need to have something there. So this is solid enough. I have my first customers. I now like to make sure that I partner, that's the word, with SAP, so my solution will grow and actually interact with SAP. Option one. Option two, they're not linear, they're just parallel options. I'm an entrepreneur and I really need to become wildly successful. SAP, are you interested in that? And then you have three options, right? You go to what I want to have funding. I want to have what we call foundries, and I come like an accelerator program, or I want to be part of a venture studio. Now, the difference is, do you want money? Do you want a passive participation because as SAP we think, hey, this is interesting, this is going to be a winner, etc. This is going to be as easy as hard as you knocking on Sequoia's door. If you don't have a pitch, you don't think big, you don't have your first product running, you don't have your first customer, this is going to be really hard to give me money, come, right? That's not how the world works. So mostly what we see is what we call the foundries, which is a network of equity-free startup accelerator. Why is this important? Because it's equity-free. That means, like, listen, we'll award you, you come with us, you sit for some weeks, months in our building, or we interact, we give you coaching, and we'll help you to move forward, right? That's a different kind of investment. That's really important to realize. And then we have what we call Venture Studio, which is where we give the best and the brightest talent, right? We give them some framework, we give them some capabilities, and actually they launch inside of SAP. So this is where we think you might not become SAP's product, but this is so tightly connected to SAP, we want to launch you from within inside. So you rapidly come in our app store and you would rapidly be positioned to our clients, right? This has to do with the maturity of the solution. This has to do with the uniqueness, but it also has to do with people. And like every venture capitalist will tell you, do I trust the founders? Do I feel comfortable with founders? Do I trust the founders are able to create a scalable culture? So it's all me, or they directly are looking on making themselves dispensable for this so they can go to there. That's the first part. Then the question is, what's your idea, what's your revenue model? Do you have an MVP, etc., etc.? So SAP.io is basically either our funding, our accelerator, or our coaching program. That's the short part. It's operated parallel from business operation SAP, and it brings the connections back. But it's not necessarily SAP 2.0, for another word. It's literally a foundry. Yeah, does it help you see that? And by the way, to apply, I get, well, first is some things we're not going to say loud in the show when it's recorded, right? But I mean, yeah, we should definitely have a follow-up talk there about where you guys are. What is important for everybody who's listening, a demo isn't enough. You need to have a bigger idea than a demo. You need to have a potential of your market. You need to have done your homework. Ladies and gentlemen who are now watching or replaying, you need to have done your homework like any other business plan. I'm just saying, I have a great product, great idea. I'm going to be really blunt. I'm getting emails every day like that. And a great idea isn't going to pay my bills at the end of the year. So if I'm going to invest my best people, my best talent to coach or to help companies, I need to make sure you're a winner. And you need to convince me. Because in the end, I am actually betting the salary and the bonus and of my best people, but also of our company in the help we're going to give out. It's not a freebie, non-profit world, like that. It's real business. Yeah. It's a really good question for our audience. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all.
Guys, let's get to the audience Q&A. I must say, guys, if you've got a question, people who are watching this, if you've got a question, please put that in the comment section, and I'm going to take that question as we go now. So let's very quickly look at the questions as they come through. Okay. Abhishek Anand, he said, my code is already pushed. I don't have new code to push. So this was when we were saying that, what kind of challenges did you see when you were talking to the conversational AI? And he said, my code is already pushed. I don't have new code to push. That's how it actually became. So possibly that's what he was trying to say. Abhishek, if I'm saying something, please put that in the comment section. Next comment is from Francis Xavier. He says, Shailendra, I must say these sessions are very informative. I believe it brings lots of clarity in terms of where SAP is leading. I recently completed SAP MM and S4HANA certification. Looking forward to getting started in 2021. I'm glad to be part of the SAP family. Thank you, Francis. Thank you for the kind words. And I hope you will have a great 2021. There is a message from Kalicharan Pichumani. He says, good morning from Chennai, Tamil Nadu, India. Good stuff. Good morning, Kalicharan.
Good morning.
There is a message from KCBS India saying good morning from KCBS Tamil Nadu. And message from Dushant Tyagi, a regular on the show. Hi Shailendra, hi Dushant, how are you? Abhishek Anand says very informative session, thanks. And now there is a question from Shivaram. He says, what is the minimum version of SAP required to implement this?
So let's start with the bad news and the good news. The bad news is that if you use old stuff, you will be limited in your possibilities to use new stuff, right? This is always like it is. You can have a beautiful vintage car from 1960, right? And you can put a new engine in, and you can put new clamps in it. But the way it was built, ABS is not really going to give you the best kind of situation to make a break in less than 3 seconds. So the good thing, however, is when we started with SAP Analytics Cloud, when we put SAP Machine Learning in it, we bridged the possibility of companies that have older versions of ECC on-prem. And therefore, you can use an older version that's on-prem with new version cloud, and you actually build your hybrid solution. Conversational AI in SAP is living in its cloud, so that makes it easy. And then implementing or connecting, for instance, with voice components, right, like we have Powerly today, is very easy for that. The hardest is when you want to have that conversational AI work with robotic process automation, and that robotic process automation needs to orchestrate your stuff. You need to be on S4HANA Cloud for that. You really need to. I mean, it's not that you can't do it, but if you want to reap the full benefits, S4HANA Cloud will absolutely, because you have all the APIs, you have it all in the cloud, you have a make once, use many, and this is about deployability, especially when you have multiple sites, manufacturing, or whatever, where you use it, where you used to have multiple data centers. So, if you're able to go to SAP S4HANA Cloud, right, it's phenomenal. If you can't, use the machine learning and conversational bot and do it in a hybrid way with what you have. Just don't expect you can have everything there. So,
Okay, good stuff. The next question is from Disha Parekh Monty, and she says, "Why voice is so important in HR space?" And let me extend that. What you're doing with this, Sidharth, you could do that with text as well. What is the importance of voice in this whole HR space?
You know what? When I give you 3 minutes of time and to express your feelings and what you know, you will do your best. You will do your best. Like you may see some other different googling and find the best one, all, and you can really take time to write. I mean, to express whatever you know. But you can only speak when if something is there at the top of your mind in a limited span of time. Articulating everything and speaking right is something that is very unique in itself. I mean, I'm not saying it cannot be solved by text. It can be solved, but if you want someone's mind to study, if you want to study someone's mind, if that is at the top of your mind, you will speak, and that is where the whole the magic happens, because and that's why I feel that. And yes, communication, expressing your thoughts, your ideas, you got to speak nicely, you got to speak very clearly and articulate certain facts, and that's where the magic is. And that's why we thought that it's probably voice is something which is very meaningful to understand a person, because this is all related to talent, and uh, human human talent is very necessary.
Okay, can I ask you another question, Siddharth? And that's around sarcasm. So, how do you tackle sarcasm in such a situation where
yes, yes, yes. I was waiting for it.
Oh, oh my God.
how do you manage sarcasm?
Oh my God, this is a difficult question.
So let me give you a
Uh,
few seconds to think about it. I'm going to give an anecdote to cheer everything up. So last year, when we were all flying, etc., my daughter, who then studied in New York, she's now graduated and doing very excited about her big first job. But she landed on what I call the most despicable airport of New York City, which is LaGuardia. And she sits there for 75 minutes after landing on the tarmac. Now, mind you, she's coming at that moment from Austin, and the waiting time on the tarmac is already longer than the whole freaking flight is taken. So she sends a text to Twitter saying, "Hey, LaGuardia, only 75 minutes waiting in the tarmac after my flight. Great job." The Twitter bot from LaGuardia picks it up and says, "Thank you, Bella. Glad to be of service." Not putting that. And the worst thing is, her Twitter tweet said, hashtag sarcasm in it, and it still didn't pick it up. And like, what does it take, right? So it's really an important part, like tonality and sarcasm. So, Siddharth, I bought enough time for you for your answer. We like to hear that.
I think machines will take some time to understand sarcasms, and probably yes, time is coming. But this at this point of time, I think it's in exploratory stage.
Okay,
It,
that final.
it is so important to do that. And sarcasm is, we like to joke about it, but it's a really important part to do with tonality. For instance, some Northwestern European languages like Danish, Swedish, Norwegian, for instance, have a reverse part. So you and I get a birthday present, and we open it up, and we're like, yes! And in those languages, we're like, no! Which is an excitement thing, like they like it. Or, do you want another coffee? I won't say no against that. how was your how did your business did this year? It didn't do bad at all, right? I mean, those kind of things to get that
Uh,
part, which is almost like dealing with as hard as dealing with bias, right? But we really see that the underlying technology, whether we look at what TensorFlow has been doing or voice recognition in Google, is getting better. What I've learned is the context. It's that sentence before and that sentence before. It's not well, it wasn't a bad year, but there's two parts that were asked before that needs to be in correlation to the answer. And that really makes it, but it's not easy. Actually, Shelley will send links out in the chat later on. One of our colleagues actually has written some blogs about creating your chat box and integrating third-party voice, etc., into SAP conversational AI. You definitely have to look at his blogs more, because he talks about the bias of language as well, and how you positively or negatively flag these things directly when you go from speech to text, right? That's the moment, because the speech, if done well, recognizes the emotions and the flags and the wave part. The moment it becomes text, you want to get more than text into your chat box. You wanted to get some signals and recognize them as well. So it's a really important part. Or in plain English, how do you stop the chatbot to be more annoying?
That's even better. That's even better. How do you stop a chatbot to be more annoying? Having said that, on sarcasm, I think machine learning can play an important role to understand the context and see whether that very good was a positive very good or a negative very good. I think we could work around that, and there was, and why am I stating that is because that was a problem I tried solving a few years ago, and then it was solvable. Anyways, as Mark said, I've got some links to share with you guys. So this is the Open AI courses on conversational AI. That's the first one. Then there are two blogs which I'm sharing with you now, which you can use as well. So there is a blog which is creating a voice controlled chatbot, and that's here. And then there is one with the part 2 of that as well.
Yeah, and Jigget is really good about that. I would really recommend following. If you really want to build something, I would really recommend the author of those books to follow him. It's really a good pleasure there.
Good stuff. So guys, if you've got to get that content is readily available. You've got the links. Please have a look at those links and go there. Having said that, I'll get to the final question, and that is from Kalicharan Pichumani, and he says, "What is your schedule and expected date of product is ready to go to deploy?" Yep, that's for you, Sidharth. What is your schedule and expected date of product when it is ready to deploy?
So right now, I mean, it's in pilot stage. So we are testing this product with two companies and a few universities here in India. And I think right now it is ready to be deployed, but we are just it's in a testing phase. Probably it will take maybe another 15 days for deploying, but with limited features, like because it's voice data collection in the voice takes time, and I understand that, and it needs a lot of data to be collected, and then does the other work, annotations and stuff like that. So yes, with limited features it is ready, and I think in the next 15 days it would be ready to deployable.
Okay. And there is another message from Kalicharan Pichumani, and he says, "How can I participate to help in your visionary project using whatever I have?" So maybe you need to get in touch with Sidharth Kalicharan, or Kalicharan and Sidharth, you can connect with each other.
That's awesome. I think I should connect him on LinkedIn and take this conversation forward.
Good
Thank
stuff.
you, Kalicharan, and I will be in touch with you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, just have a look at the name and find him on LinkedIn and possibly get in touch with him. And that would be a good idea to get connected. Mustafa, I'm just checking. The messages have gone through. The messages are not gone through on LinkedIn though. But the links, Mark, maybe it may be a good idea for you to post them separately on LinkedIn, because the messages didn't go through to LinkedIn. They've gone through all the other portals. They've gone through Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, but they've not gone through to LinkedIn. So possibly you can do that. Okay. That was it, guys. Before we go, I always ask this question, guys, to both of you. Any one phrase or any one comment that you want your audience to be left with? I'll start with Sidharth. What do you want? Any phrase that you want the audience to be left with?
Yeah, so that we believe in voice. I mean, we are working towards voice. So I have one thing that voice plays very important role in everyone's lives. And the day AI understand voice, we will see miraculous things happening forward.
Okay. Okay. Mark, you want to leave something for the audience?
So first is I'm an incredible fan of AI chatbots, right? I think everybody who's a fan of sci-fi movies, whether it is L. Carson in Star Trek or even Hal preferred in 2010 than his personality in 2001 Space Odyssey, likes to have this interaction with technology, and especially by voice and by words and etc. Yes, AI chatbots are expensive to train. I admit that, right? They are. So take that in. The human factor, the training data, etc. is important. The most important is you will never get it right. You will never get your chatbot to have all the answers. So start by day one with dealing, how will my chatbot respond with unspecified replies, right? Not just basically do what you and I say. Instead of BSing me, don't know the answer, just say, I don't know yet. This hasn't been part of my training. Would you like to give me a suggestion? Those kind of things, right? And because I know I want to do. And to do that, the most important is when you start in 2021 to create a chatbot, take explicit long-term memory as part of your design. If you cannot backtrack the flow of what happened, and therefore you don't have the context of the total conversation, you're already one step behind. The winners from zero to hero, the heroes of 2021 and 2022 that have created chatbot platforms will have explicit long-term memory. That's it. That's my wisdom for today.
Good stuff.
That's awesome.
Thank you, guys. And thank you, Mark, for that early morning session again.
Thank you so much.
And see you very soon.
Thank you,
Excellent.
Mark. Thank you, Shailendra.
Thank you, Sidharth. We'll connect after this as well. It was really a pleasure. I think it's very exciting what you guys are doing. So good luck to that, and thank you, everybody who joined.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Shailendra.
Thank you, Sidharth.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
So, guys, that was Sidhartha Mohanty from Powerly.ai and Marc Teerlink, and with all the questions and questions from you guys as well. Thank you very much for your time, guys, and I hope you learned a couple of things from our guests. Hopefully you enjoyed the session, and if you did, please share it around. If you're watching this on LinkedIn, please press the follow button. If you're watching this on Twitter, please press the follow button. If you're watching this on YouTube, please press the subscribe button and the bell icon so that you can be alerted. If you're watching this on Facebook, please press the like button and share it across with various groups and your social network, so that everyone on Facebook is able to learn from these two guys and enjoy the session. Hopefully you enjoyed the session, and I'll see you very soon, possibly tomorrow. See you then, and goodbye. Have a great time, and bye now. See ya.